National Hockey League. Who are you thinking about, right? The Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs back on the ice today as the NHL kicked off phase 3 of its reopening plan, allowing training camps to fully reopen. But as soon as they did it, a harsh reality set in. This morning, the Pittsburgh Penguins announced they had to pull 9 players out of practice. The 9 apparently had potential exposure to an individual who tested positive for the coronavirus. The team says the players cannot participate until they are deemed safe and healthy. To NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, who is dealing with all of this, he joins us live. Gary, thank you for taking time out on the first day of practice restarting and officially beginning. What do you make first of this news out of the Penguins camp?
What I make out of it, and Liz, it's great to be with you as always, is our protocols are sound, and we're doing the things we need to do to protect the health and well-being of our players. Actually, I think it was a tertiary exposure. I think somebody was exposed to somebody who wasn't in the NHL, and that person then was in contact with a number of players. This is really a case of the Penguins being very careful and making sure that we're doing everything we can to be as safe as possible. Obviously, in the environment we're all living in, there may be some positive tests. We understand the risks, but the protocols we've worked out with health authorities, with our Players Association, we think are very sound, and we've made the appropriate medical people very comfortable with them. So it's doing what it's supposed to do.
And I think that's great, but I have to ask you about, I guess, the magic number. You know, Major League Soccer had to remove an entire team, FC Dallas, from their playoffs after 10 of their players and a coach tested positive for COVID-19. You know, what is the magic number that you have set for NHL teams where a team will have to be disqualified due to players testing positive or being exposed?
There's a big difference between what happened in MLS and this situation. MLS, they had, 10 positive tests. This is all about exposure. Nobody yet has tested positive, and we're going to rely on medical people. Well, the number will be determined by the circumstances and what the medical people tell us is appropriate. If you have an occasional test, that's one thing. If you have an outbreak, that's something else, and that's something that we're going to let the medical people, the health authorities, guide us on. And so you don't have to look for the magic number. You have to have confidence in the protocols and the procedures that we're following based on the best medical advice that we can get. You know, part of what's getting lost in all of this, and the testing's important, and the protocols are important, and health and safety is, but what we've managed to do over the last 12 weeks, in addition to the protocol, we were able with our Players Association to agree on a return to play scenario. We've dealt with our critical dates calendar. We've dealt with transition rules, and perhaps as important, if not more so, is we've agreed to an extension of our collective bargaining agreement so that we know that we have 6 years of labor peace going forward. And it's that bundle which is as important, if anything else, than the return to play, although we are excited about the return to play, obviously.
Well, yeah. I mean, the collective bargaining agreement gives everybody some breathing room. We were definitely going to focus. What do you think? You're dealing with a rookie here? You know I'm a huge hockey fan. But, Gary, I want to talk about the actual plan here. And here's the structure. August 1st will be the beginning of play. 2 hub cities. We're talking about Edmonton and Toronto. I find that very responsible to be in Canada because right now, you know, the NBA is dealing with the situation where they're in a bubble in Florida, in Orlando, and Florida just had its largest number of single-day cases. Your games will have an NHL hygiene officer in each hub, daily tests. Will families be able to visit the players, wives, children, etc.?
Certainly not in the play-in round and the first 2 rounds. You know, a number of weeks ago when we agreed with our players on what the right return to play structure would be, we got a lot of commentary about why didn't we designate the hub cities. We had 10 clubs in their communities give us outstanding proposals as to how we could work all this out. And at the end of the day, we made the determination that we didn't want to make the decision until we absolutely had to, because COVID-19 was being fairly changing. And so by going to Canada, we made the decision to go to the places that have the least COVID-19 in North America. And that turned out, in retrospect, to be the right decision. But families, we're going to have a very tight bubble. And it's possible, depending on the state of the world, that when we get to the conference finals and the final, that perhaps there can be some families in attendance at the games. I doubt in the bubble itself. But that's something that we can focus on down the road. We should be fortunate enough to be having the opportunity to focus on it, because that means everything we've planned for has gone well.
Well, I will say I noticed that there are 2 hotels in each hub city, and the teams are spread across each of the 2 hotels in each city. I cannot believe, Gary, that you put the Flyers and the Penguins at the same hotel. I mean, that is dangerous. You're just asking for trouble on that.
These are extraordinary times, and we all just have to be flexible and do the best we can. But you're talking like a true hockey fan, and you know we love that.
Of course. Gary, it's great to see you. Thank you very much. Hope everybody stays healthy. Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the National Hockey League.